In a world characterized by unprecedented interconnectivity, the challenges of economic inequality demand our collective attention and concerted efforts. The 21st century has brought both remarkable progress and persistent disparities, making it increasingly crucial to foster global solidarity as a means to confront the pervasive issue of economic inequality. Howdy, I'm just some random nude dude sitting in my closet talking to myself. It's also where I celebrate the power of free thinking and encourage bold ideas. As a society, we're often afraid to challenge the norms and think outside the box. But here, I embrace the unconventional. So sit back, relax, and join me on this journey of exploration, where we embrace our inner nude dude and push boundaries to discover new perspectives. Economic inequality, often defined by the stark contrasts in income and wealth, transcends borders and affects individuals, communities, and entire nations. The impact is not merely economic, but extends to social, political, and cultural dimensions, shaping the opportunities and life prospects for billions of people. This discussion delves into the multifaceted landscape of economic inequality, exploring its root causes, consequences, and the indispensable role of international cooperation, diplomacy, and global partnerships in promoting shared prosperity. Our journey will lead us to understanding the power of collaborative efforts in mitigating disparities and navigating the complexities of fostering global solidarity. Together, we'll examine the global stage, where nations must overcome political differences, power dynamics, and intricate international agreements to tackle economic inequality head-on. The challenges are formidable, yet the possibilities for change are equally remarkable. In the segments that follow, we'll explore how governments, organizations, businesses, and individuals can contribute to reducing economic disparities. From policy reforms to empowering marginalized communities, from trade diplomacy to sustainability, this discourse aims to shed light on the path forward. The shared vision is clear: to create a world where economic opportunity is not a privilege, but a fundamental right, and where global solidarity is the driving force in addressing the pressing issues of economic inequality. This conversation seeks to inspire informed action, where knowledge translates into solutions and collaboration leads to shared prosperity. To begin, it's crucial to understand the current state of economic inequality worldwide. Economic disparities exist on multiple levels, from individual income inequality within countries to disparities between nations. These disparities can lead to various social and economic challenges, making it a global concern. Economic inequality is a multifaceted issue that manifests on several levels. At the individual level, it refers to the disparities in income and wealth within a single country. These disparities can be stark, with a small percentage of the population controlling a significant portion of the wealth, while many others struggle to meet basic needs. On the national level, economic inequality can be observed in the differences between regions or states within a country. Some areas may be economically prosperous, while others face poverty and underdevelopment. At the international level, economic inequality extends across borders, with affluent nations and developing countries experiencing vastly different levels of prosperity. This is often referred to as the global North-South divide, where developed countries in the Northern Hemisphere tend to have higher income levels and access to resources compared to countries in the Southern Hemisphere. Understanding the global landscape of economic inequality also involves recognizing its root causes. These causes can be intricate and interrelated. Historical events, such as colonization and the exploitation of resources in the past, have left a lasting impact on economic inequality. Many countries of the Global South continue to grapple with the legacies of colonialism. The economic systems in place, including capitalism and socialism, play a significant role in shaping income distribution. Market forces, government policies, and the role of the private sector can influence economic inequality. Disparities in access to education and skills development can perpetuate economic inequality. Individuals with better educational opportunity and skills are often better positioned to access higher-paying jobs. Discrimination, gender disparities, and social inequalities also contribute to economic inequality. These factors can limit opportunities for marginalized groups, leading to income disparities. The dynamics of global trade and finance can exacerbate or alleviate economic inequality. Unfair trade practices, debt burdens, and speculative financial markets can impact economic stability. Measuring economic inequality is essential for understanding its scope and impact. Economics and researchers use various tools and indicators to assess inequality, such as the Gini coefficient, which identifies income distribution within a country, and the Human Development Index, or HDI, which takes into account income, education, and health indicators to provide a broad perspective of well-being. Economic inequality has far-reaching consequences and can lead to social unrest, political instability, and reduced economic growth. Moreover, it can limit access to essential services like health care and education for disadvantaged populations, perpetuating a cycle of poverty. Understanding the global landscape of economic inequality also involves recognizing efforts to combat it. International organizations, such as the United Nations, have set sustainable development goals that aim to reduce inequality within and among countries. These goals provide a framework for nations to work together to address economic disparities. Comprehending the global landscape of economic inequality requires acknowledging its various levels, understanding its root causes, measuring its extent, and recognizing the consequences it poses for individuals and societies. It's an intricate issue that necessitates collaborative efforts on a global scale to bring about positive change and foster greater economic equity. One of the primary ways to address economic inequality is through international cooperation. Nations can work together to create policies, agreements, and initiatives that promote fairness in global trade, investments, and development. For instance, organizations like the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank play pivotal roles in fostering cooperation and facilitating discussions on global economic issues. Multilateral organizations, such as the United Nations, play a central role in facilitating international cooperation to address economic inequality. The UN's various agencies and programs work on issues like poverty reduction, sustainable development, and human rights. Through the UN, member states can collaborate on policies and initiatives that aim to create a more equitable world. Global economic forums, like the G7 and G20, provide platforms for some of the world's most economically influential nations to come together. These forums enable discussions and agreements on issues like trade, finance, and development. By aligning their policies and strategies, these countries can have a significant impact on global economic inequality. International trade agreements are essential tools for promoting economic cooperation. Trade between countries can stimulate economic growth, but it must be conducted fairly. Trade agreements can set the rules for international commerce, ensuring that it benefits all nations involved. By addressing issues like tariff reductions and fair competition, these agreements can mitigate economic disparities. One crucial aspect of international cooperation is development assistance. Affluent nations can provide aid to less developed countries to help them address poverty, improve health care and education, and build infrastructure. This assistance can be in the form of grants, loans, or technical expertise, and it contributes to reducing economic inequality by enhancing economic prospects in recipient nations. Sharing knowledge and best practices on economic development is another powerful aspect of international cooperation. Countries with successful economic policies and practices can share their experiences with others, helping them make informed decisions to promote growth and reduce disparities. This knowledge-sharing exchange can occur through diplomatic channels, international organizations, and partnerships. International cooperation is also vital in tackling global challenges that exacerbate economic inequality, such as climate change, pandemics, and refugee crises. These issues transcend borders, and nations must work together to find solutions. By addressing these challenges collectively, the world can create a more stable environment for economic growth and development. International organizations often set goals and targets to measure progress in reducing economic inequality. Accountability mechanisms ensure that nations are committed to their promises. Transparency and regular reporting allow the international community to assess the impact of cooperative efforts and make adjustments as needed. While international cooperation is powerful, it's not without challenges. Sovereignty concerns, conflicting national interests, and political tensions can hinder collaboration. Negotiating agreements that are acceptable to all parties can be a complex process, and powerful interests sometimes resist reforms that would reduce economic inequality. It's worth noting that international cooperation isn't limited to governments. Non-governmental organizations, civil society groups, and businesses also play a vital role in fostering cooperation. NGOs often work in partnership with governments to implement development projects, and businesses can invest in disadvantaged regions, creating jobs and economic opportunities. The long-term impact of international cooperation in addressing economic inequality is substantial. When nations work together to promote fair trade, sustainable development, and poverty reduction, it contributes to a more stable and prosperous global environment. This, in turn, can lead to a reduction in economic disparities and improved well-being for people around the world. The power of international cooperation lies in its ability to bring nations together to tackle economic inequality through diplomacy, trade agreements, development assistance, knowledge sharing, and collaborative solutions to global challenges. Despite challenges and barriers, international cooperation remains a key instrument for creating a more equitable and unified planet. Diplomacy is the art of negotiation and communication between nations. Diplomatic efforts can play a pivotal role in addressing economic disparities. Countries can engage in a dialogue to negotiate trade agreements that are mutually beneficial, and diplomatic channels can be used to resolve conflicts that might exacerbate economic inequality. Diplomacy plays a vital role in addressing economic inequality. At its core, diplomacy helps countries engage in peaceful dialogue to resolve disputes and negotiate agreements that can have a profound impact on economic issues. Trade diplomacy is a critical aspect of international relations. It involves negotiations between countries to create fair and mutually beneficial trade agreements. These agreements can influence economic inequality by regulating tariffs, quotas, and trade practices. Through trade diplomacy, nations can work to reduce trade barriers, creating opportunities for increased economic cooperation. Economic diplomacy goes beyond trade and encompasses a wide range of economic issues. Nations engage in economic diplomacy to attract foreign investments, promote their own industries, and encourage international cooperation. Diplomats work to strengthen economic ties and build partnerships that can lead to improved economic prospects. Diplomacy can take the form of bilateral or multilateral negotiations. Bilateral diplomacy involves discussions and agreements between two nations. These agreements can address issues such as foreign aid, trade partnerships, and investment. On the other hand, Multilateral diplomacy involves multiple nations coming together to discuss and address shared economic concerns on a broader scale, often facilitated through international organizations like the United Nations. Diplomatic efforts are also crucial in preventing conflicts that could exacerbate economic inequality. Economic disputes, such as trade tensions or resource conflicts, can lead to instability and hinder economic development. Diplomacy serves as a tool to resolve these disputes peacefully and prevent economic setbacks. Diplomacy extends beyond formal negotiations and agreements. It involves soft power and public diplomacy, which aim to influence public opinion and build positive relationships between nations. These aspects can create a conducive environment for economic cooperation, trade, and cultural exchange. Humanitarian diplomacy is another facet of diplomatic efforts that can mitigate economic inequality. It involves advocating for human assistance and addressing issues like poverty, healthcare, and education. Diplomats may work to ensure that aid reaches those in need, helping to reduce disparities in access to essential services. Diplomacy is essential for bridging cultural and political differences that can hinder economic cooperation. Nations may have diverse cultural norms and political ideologies, which can affect economic relations. Diplomatic negotiations help find common ground and build trust, making it easier for countries to work together. Despite its importance, diplomacy faces challenges. Complex international issues often involve numerous parties with differing interests, and finding common solutions can be a time-consuming and challenging process. Political tensions and power struggles can hinder diplomatic efforts. Moreover, diplomatic negotiations can be influenced by domestic political considerations, making it essential to balance national and global interests. Diplomats play a central role in advancing diplomacy's objectives. They're skilled in negotiation, communication, and conflict resolution. Diplomats represent their nation's interests while also striving to find common ground with other countries. Their ability to build relationships, maintain open channels of communication, and seek peaceful solutions is vital in addressing economic inequality through diplomacy. Diplomacy is a key instrument in addressing economic inequality by facilitating negotiations, resolving conflicts, and promoting cooperation between nations. It encompasses various forms of diplomacy, including trade diplomacy, economic diplomacy, and humanitarian diplomacy, and it serves as a means to create a more stable and equitable global economic landscape. Despite challenges, diplomats play a crucial role in fostering international cooperation to reduce economic disparities. Global partnerships are essential in addressing economic inequality. These partnerships can involve not only governments, but also non-governmental organizations, businesses, and civil society. Public-private partnerships can promote sustainable development and poverty reduction, while philanthropic efforts from global organizations can fund projects aimed at bridging economic gaps. Global partnerships often involve collaboration between governments and private sector entities. Public-private partnerships are formed to address specific economic challenges. For instance, a government and private company might collaborate to build infrastructure, improve healthcare, and promote education. No, really, the private company is going to have to be forced into that, but These partnerships can bring together resources, expertise, and innovation to achieve common goals. Non-governmental organizations are crucial players in global partnerships. NGOs focus on various aspects of economic development, such as poverty alleviation, healthcare, education, and sustainable agriculture. They work closely with governments and communities to implement projects and initiatives that directly impact economic inequality. NGOs often bridge the gap between the public and private sectors and ensure that resources are directed to areas of need. Global partnerships extend to international financial institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. These organizations provide financial support, technical expertise, and policy guidance to member countries. They fund projects and programs that aim to reduce poverty, enhance economic stability, and promote sustainable development, particularly in less developed regions. Many corporations are increasingly aware of their social and environmental responsibilities. Corporate social responsibility initiatives involve companies contributing to social and economic development. This can include investments in local communities, support for education and skills development, and sustainable business practices. By engaging in CSR, businesses can have a positive impact on reducing economic inequality. Philanthropic foundations, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Ford Foundation, play a substantial role in addressing economic inequality. These foundations channel substantial resources into initiatives that target poverty, healthcare, education, and social welfare. They often take a long-term view and support innovative approaches to solving economic challenges. Global partnerships also include research and advocacy organizations that focus on economic inequality. These groups conduct research, gather data, and raise awareness about issues related to poverty and income disparities. They advocate for policy changes, mobilize resources, and support initiatives aimed at reducing economic inequality. Global partnerships extend to grassroots and community-based initiatives. Local organizations and community groups play a crucial role in addressing economic inequality at the ground level. They understand the unique challenges facing their communities and often work in collaboration with larger organizations and governments to implement tailored solutions. Effective global partnerships often involve cross-sector collaboration. Governments, businesses, NGOs, and communities come together to pool resources, share expertise, and align efforts. This cross-sector collaboration can lead to holistic and sustainable solutions for economic inequality. Global partnerships also facilitate the transfer of technology and innovation from more developed to less developed regions. This can help bridge technological gaps, boost productivity, and create economic opportunities. For example, partnerships may support technology transfer in agriculture to improve food security and income generation. To ensure the effectiveness of global partnerships in reducing economic inequality, accountability and impact assessment mechanisms are crucial. These partnerships often set clear objectives and track progress towards their goals. Regular assessments help evaluate the impact of initiatives and make necessary adjustments to improve outcomes. Global partnerships encompass a diverse range of collaborations involving governments, private sector entities, NGOs, financial institutions, and philanthropic foundations. These partnerships leverage resources, expertise, and innovation to address economic inequality at local, national, and international levels. By working together, these entities can have a significant and lasting impact on reducing disparities and promoting shared prosperity. Cross-border efforts are crucial in mitigating disparities. This includes measures like foreign aid, technology transfer, and knowledge sharing between nations. When more affluent nations assist less developed countries in areas like education, healthcare, and infrastructure, it can significantly contribute to reducing economic inequality. And there's really absolutely no reason why we don't have a standard of primary education across the world. Iran. Foreign aid is a significant cross-border. Iran's just an example. Half the world has a problem with this. Foreign aid is a significant cross-border effort aimed at mitigating economic disparities. Wealthier nations provide assistance in the form of grants, loans, and technical expertise to less developed countries. This aid can be directed towards various sectors, such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, and agriculture, with the goal of promoting economic growth and improving living standards. Technology transfer involves the exchange of knowledge and technology between countries. More technologically advanced nations can share their expertise and innovations with less developed regions. This transfer can boost productivity, create new economic opportunities, and bridge technological gaps, ultimately helping reduce economic disparities. Cross-border efforts often focus on knowledge sharing and capacity building. Developing countries can benefit from training programs, educational exchanges, and collaborations with experts from more developed nations. These knowledge and capacity building initiatives can empower local communities and governments to address economic challenges more effectively. Infrastructure development is crucial for economic growth. Cross-border investments in infrastructure, such as roads, ports, and energy systems, can open up new economic opportunities in less developed regions. These investments can stimulate economic activities, create jobs, and enhance the overall quality of life. Facilitating cross-border trade and providing market access for goods and services is another strategy to mitigate economic disparities. Trade agreements and reduced trade barriers can enable less developed countries to access global markets and sell their products. This can stimulate economic growth and diversify income sources. Cross-border efforts can also include support for microfinance and small businesses. I support Kiva. If you don't, go to kiva.org and check them out, because it's the right thing to do, like oatmeal. These initiatives help entrepreneurs and small business owners in less developed regions access capital, training, and resources to establish and expand their enterprises. Microfinance can be a powerful tool for poverty reduction and economic empowerment. Cross-border efforts are essential during humanitarian crises, such as natural disasters and conflicts. Humanitarian aid organizations provide immediate relief and support to affected populations. These efforts help stabilize situations, provide essential services, and prevent future economic setbacks in crisis-affected regions. Sustainable development projects, often initiated by international organizations and cross-border partnerships, focus on long-term solutions to economic disparities. These projects address issues like environmental sustainability, access to clean energy, and social inclusion, aiming to create lasting economic improvements. Education and cultural exchanges between countries are valuable cross-border efforts. Scholarships, educational programs, and cultural exchanges allow individuals to gain new skills, knowledge, and experiences. These exchanges can lead to a more globally interconnected and economically empowered population. International organizations, NGOs, and advocacy groups often work to raise awareness about global economic justice. They advocate for policies that promote fairness in global trade, debt relief for less developed countries, and initiatives that address economic inequality on a global scale. Cross-border efforts are not without challenges. Coordination, funding, and ensuring that assistance reaches those in need can be complex. Additionally, factors such as political instability, corruption, and local resistance can hinder the success of these initiatives. Mitigating economic disparities through cross-border efforts involves a wide range of strategies, from foreign aid to technology transfer, knowledge sharing, infrastructure investment, and trade facilitation. These efforts require international collaboration and a commitment to address economic inequality on a global scale. When implemented effectively, cross-border initiatives can contribute to reducing disparities and promoting shared prosperity in less developed regions. The ultimate goal of fostering global solidarity is to promote shared prosperity. This means creating a world where all nations and all citizens have the opportunity to thrive economically. Shared prosperity can be achieved through equitable economic policies, fair trade practices, and inclusive development strategies. Promoting shared prosperity begins with the formulation of equitable economic policies. Governments and international organizations can design policies that prioritize fair income distribution, access to essential services, and economic opportunities for all. This can involve progressive taxation, social safety nets, and regulations that prevent monopolies and unfair business practices. Inclusive growth strategies aim to ensure that the benefits of economic development are shared across society. This involves focusing on sectors that have the potential to create jobs and uplift communities. Investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure are also critical for inclusive growth, as they empower individuals and communities to participate in and benefit from economic progress. Fair trade practices are essential for shared prosperity. International trade should be conducted on fair terms, where both developed and developing countries can benefit. This includes reducing trade barriers, ensuring that trade agreements are mutually beneficial, and addressing issues like subsidies and dumping that can harm local industries in developing countries. It's kind of hard to believe after 2,000 years of global expansion, we still have developing countries. What a shitty species we are. Education and skills development are fundamental to promoting shared prosperity. Access to quality education and training opportunities can help individuals acquire the skills needed to access better job prospects, increase their income, and contribute to the country's economic growth. Providing access to healthcare and social welfare is crucial for shared prosperity. A healthy population is more productive and can actively participate in economic activities. Social welfare programs, such as unemployment benefits and food assistance, can provide a safety net for those facing economic hardships. Infrastructure development, including transportation, communication, and energy systems, is essential for shared prosperity. Access to efficient infrastructure enables businesses to operate more effectively, connects remote areas to economic opportunities, and enhances the overall quality of life for citizens. Support for small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, is a powerful tool for shared prosperity. SMEs often represent a significant portion of the economy and can create jobs and economic opportunities. Governments can provide incentives, access to capital, and training to help SMEs thrive. Promoting shared prosperity should also consider economic sustainability. Sustainable practices ensure that future generations can enjoy economic opportunities and a healthy planet. Sustainable development strategies aim to balance economic growth with environmental stewardship. Addressing social and gender disparities is integral to promoting shared prosperity. Efforts should focus on reducing discrimination, promoting equality, and empowering marginalized groups to participate fully in economic activities. This can lead to a more equitable distribution of economic benefits. International collaboration and aid are vital for shared prosperity, especially for developing countries. Developed nations can provide assistance, knowledge transfer, and investments to support the economic development of less developed regions. International organizations can also play a role in coordinating efforts to reduce global economic disparities. To ensure that shared prosperity goals are met, it's essential to monitor and evaluate progress. Governments, international organizations, and advocacy groups should establish clear indicators and regularly assess the impact of policies and initiatives on economic equality and shared prosperity. Promoting shared prosperity involves a multifaceted approach that encompasses equitable economic policies, inclusive growth strategies, fair trade practices, access to education and health care, infrastructure development, support for SMEs, environmental sustainability, addressing social and gender disparities, and international collaboration. It requires a commitment from governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector to create a more inclusive and equitable economic landscape for all. It's important to acknowledge the challenges in fostering global solidarity. These challenges can range from political differences between nations to the resistance of powerful interest groups, like corporations, the greedy bastards. It's also essential to consider the cultural and societal factors that influence economic disparities and the potential consequences of well-intentioned policies. One of the foremost challenges is political differences and conflicts between nations. Sovereign interests, geopolitical tensions, and differences in political ideologies can hinder cooperation on economic equity issues. Resolving these differences requires skillful diplomacy and compromise. Global policy dynamics plays a significant role in addressing economic inequality. Powerful nations often have more influence in shaping international policies, which may not always align with the interests of less developed countries. Balancing the power dynamic is a considerable challenge in promoting shared prosperity. Powerful interest groups, both within countries and globally, can resist policies and initiatives aimed at reducing income inequality. They may seek to protect their own vested interests, making it difficult to implement reforms that could benefit a broader segment of the population. Cultural and societal factors can influence economic disparities. Cultural norms, discrimination, and social hierarchies may contribute to inequality. Addressing these issues requires not only economic reforms, but also changes in social attitudes and behaviors. Corruption and governance challenges are pervasive issues in some regions. Corrupt practices can divert resources away from programs intended to alleviate poverty and promote economic equity. Ensuring transparent, accountable governance is essential to overcoming this challenge. Negotiating and implementing complex international agreements, such as trade agreements and climate accords, can be arduous. These agreements often involve multiple parties with diverse interests, making it challenging to find common ground and enact effective policies. Environmental degradation and climate change can exacerbate economic inequality. Vulnerable communities often bear the brunt of environmental challenges, leading to displacement and economic hardships. Combating these issues and their economic repercussions requires comprehensive strategies. Humanitarian crises, including conflicts, natural disasters, and pandemics, can disrupt economic stability and exacerbate inequality. Responding effectively to these crises is a considerable challenge, as it requires immediate relief efforts and long-term rebuilding strategies. Balancing economic growth with equity is a delicate task. Policies that stimulate economic growth may inadvertently widen income disparities if not designed with inclusivity in mind. Finding the right balance is a continual challenge for policymakers. Lack of accurate and comprehensive data can hinder efforts to understand and address economic inequality. Many regions, particularly in less developed countries, face challenges in collecting and analyzing data related to income distribution, access to services, and other critical factors. Addressing economic inequality is a long-term endeavor that requires consistent commitment and political will. Changes in leadership, shifts in policy priorities, and short-term thinking can undermine progress if there isn't sustained dedication to shared prosperity. Unforeseen events and economic shocks, such as financial crises or public health emergencies, can disrupt progress in reducing inequality. Developing resilience and adaptability in economic systems is crucial to mitigating the impact of such events. Addressing economic inequality on a global scale presents numerous challenges, from political differences and power dynamics to cultural factors and governance issues. Recognizing these challenges and working collaboratively to find solutions is essential for making progress towards a more equitable and prosperous world. It requires a sustained, collective effort from governments, organizations, and individuals committed to fostering global solidarity and shared prosperity. To foster global solidarity and address economic inequality effectively, it's crucial to continue discussions and negotiations on a global scale. International summits, conferences, and forums provide platforms for nations to come together and find common ground. As individuals, we can also support initiatives and organizations that work towards a fairer and more unified world. The way forward involves strengthening international agreements and institutions designed to address economic inequality. Nations must continue to collaborate and reinforce existing frameworks like the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and regional organizations. These platforms provide essential avenues for diplomacy and policy coordination. Advocacy for policy reforms at national and international levels is critical. Civil society, advocacy groups, and individuals can play a vital role in pushing for equitable economic policies, fair trade practices, and regulations that reduce disparities. Grassroots movements can influence decision makers to prioritize shared prosperity. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, provide a roadmap for addressing global challenges, including economic inequality. Governments and organizations should align their strategies with the SDGs to ensure that progress is measured and tracked, and resources are directed towards achieving these goals. Empowering marginalized communities is a key component of the way forward. It involves addressing social and gender disparities, providing access to education and health care, and creating economic opportunities for disadvantaged groups. Inclusivity is fundamental for shared prosperity. Transparency and accountability are essential. Governments and organizations should ensure that resources are allocated efficiently and that corruption is curtailed. Transparent governance builds trust and confidence in economic policies. Balancing economic growth with equity is an ongoing challenge. Policymakers must design strategies that promote both economic development and shared prosperity. This may require reevaluating tax policies, social safety nets, and regulations to ensure that economic benefits reach all segments of society. Investing in education and skills development remains a priority. Education is a powerful tool for reducing income inequality and providing individuals with the means to access better job opportunities and improve their standard of living. In today's interconnected world, bridging the digital divide is crucial. Access to technology and the internet is essential for economic participation. Efforts should be made to ensure that remote and underserved communities have equal access to digital resources. Developing resilience and preparedness to address economic shocks and crises is essential. This includes building robust social safety nets, diversifying economies, and having contingency plans in place to respond to unexpected events. International solidarity and aid are vital components of the way forward. Developed nations should continue to provide assistance to less developed countries, including foreign aid, technology transfer, and knowledge sharing. These cross-border efforts can make a significant impact on reducing disparities. Public awareness and engagement are crucial. Educating the public about economic inequality and its consequences can lead to greater support for policies and initiatives aimed at shared prosperity. Informed and engaged citizens can hold governments and organizations accountable. Sustainability should be at the forefront of economic development. Practices that are environmentally responsible and considerate of future generations are essential. The way forward involves balancing economic growth with environmental stewardship. The way forward in addressing economic inequality and fostering global solidarity requires a multifaceted approach that encompasses policy reforms, empowering marginalized communities, transparency, and a commitment to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. It demands sustained commitment from governments, organizations, and individuals to create a more equitable and prosperous world for all. Fostering global solidarity to address economic inequality is a complex but vital endeavor. By leveraging international cooperation, diplomacy, and global partnerships, we can make significant progress in mitigating disparities and promoting shared prosperity across the planet. It requires collective efforts, commitment, and an understanding of the interconnectedness of our global community. In our exploration of economic inequality and the imperative to foster global solidarity, we've journeyed through the intricacies of a world marked by both progress and persistent disparities. Economic inequality, a multifaceted issue with profound implications, transcends borders and demands our collective attention. As we conclude this discussion, it's evident that the path towards shared prosperity is laden with challenges, but the possibilities for change are equally profound. Throughout this discourse, we've uncovered the levels and root causes of economic inequality, delving into its historical legacies, the role of economic systems, education, and social factors. We've measured its extent and grasped the dire consequences it poses to societies worldwide, from political instability to limited access to vital services. However, our exploration doesn't end at understanding the problem. We've unveiled the transformative power of international cooperation, diplomacy, and global partnerships as critical instruments in addressing economic inequality. Multilateral organizations, global economic forums, and trade agreements all play pivotal roles in aligning nations' efforts to mitigate disparities and promote shared prosperity. We've witnessed how diplomacy facilitates peace negotiations and conflict resolution, how public-private partnerships, NGOs, and philanthropic foundations contribute to economic development. These global partnerships, alongside research and advocacy organizations, drive change by mobilizing resources and knowledge. The significance of cross-border efforts is paramount, as foreign aid, technology transfer, knowledge sharing, and sustainable development projects all contribute to reducing disparities in developing regions. Grassroots and community-based initiatives, combined with corporate social responsibility, offer essential support, reflecting the multifaceted approach required to address economic inequality. In the pursuit of shared prosperity, the challenges and considerations are stark. From political differences to power dynamics, cultural factors, and governance challenges, the path is fraught with complexities. However, as we emphasized, addressing these issues necessitates continuous commitment, innovation, and resilience. We've highlighted the importance of transparent governance, data collection, and monitoring to ensure accountability and effectiveness in addressing economic inequality. Balancing economic growth with equity remains an ongoing challenge, but with a focus on inclusive policies, sustainable practices, and investments in education, the path becomes clearer. International solidarity, humanitarian aid, and advocacy for policy reforms are key drivers for change, highlighting the necessity for governments, organizations, and individuals to unite in the pursuit of a more equitable and prosperous world. As we close this discussion, we're reminded that fostering global solidarity is not merely a lofty aspiration, but an urgent necessity. It is an embodiment of the shared values that underpin humanity's progress, where every individual, regardless of their background, deserves an equal opportunity to thrive economically. The road to shared prosperity may be marked with hurdles, but it is a journey of significance and possibility. By recognizing that global solidarity is not an abstract concept, but a practical means to address economic inequality, we set the course for a brighter, more equitable future. In the end, it's not just the responsibility of governments and institutions, but a shared mission for us all, as individuals, to turn knowledge into action, to foster understanding, and to lead the way towards shared prosperity. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this video informative and thought-provoking. This is the point where others tell you, if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content just like this. But we know that kind of thing is for losers. Don't be a loser. And as always, I welcome your feedback and ideas for future videos in the comments section below. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing your inner nude, dude.